The screams of dying Zorgon soldiers echoed across the blood-soaked battlefield as human Marines decimated their forces with ruthless efficiency, revealing the true reason the Galactic Council banned humans from interstellar conflicts. Vortis, a Draconis diplomat, sprinted through the bustling spaceport on the Council's capital planet. He had to deliver an urgent message about the war between the Draconis Empire and the Zorgon Confederacy. In the crowded terminal, he collided with Jake Adams, a grizzled human veteran boarding a transport to the front lines, defying the ban on human soldiers. Jake's cryptic parting words left Vortis unsettled. At the council chambers, Vortis shared news of Draconis losses and the need for aid. A fierce debate erupted over lifting the human ban. Some cited humans' unpredictable violent nature, while others argued humanity's involvement was critical to prevent the Zorgons from genociding the Draconis. The survival of trillions hinged on this decision. Vortis questioned the real motives behind exiling Earth from the galactic stage. He knew time was running out for his people. 200 years earlier, at the height of the Zorgon-Draconis War, the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with heated debate. The war had dragged on for far too long, with no end in sight, and casualties mounted on both sides as the conflict consumed entire star systems. In a last-ditch effort to bring the war to a close, the Council voted to lift the long-standing ban on human involvement in galactic affairs. A request for aid was dispatched to Earth, imploring humans to send their best soldiers to support the Draconis war effort. Humans, eager to prove their mettle on the galactic stage, responded enthusiastically. A contingent of elite warriors led by Commander Ezra Stone was quickly assembled and dispatched to the front lines. Stone, a battle-hardened soldier with a reputation for unconventional tactics, was determined to show the galaxy what humans were capable of. Upon arriving at the Draconis forward operating base, Commander Stone and his team were greeted by General Tarax, a grizzled Draconis veteran with a no-nonsense demeanor. Tarax eyed the humans with skepticism, his scales rippling with barely concealed disdain. Commander Stone Tarax said, his voice a low rumble, "I hope your soldiers are prepared for what lies ahead. This is not a war for the inexperienced or faint of heart." Stone met the general's gaze unflinchingly. "General Tarax, I assure you that my team is more than capable. We may be new to this conflict, but we are no strangers to war. We will not only meet your expectations but exceed them." As the human soldiers integrated with the Draconis forces, they quickly adapted to the unfamiliar technology and proved their worth in small skirmishes against Zorgon raiders. Stone led his team with a combination of tactical brilliance and raw courage, earning the grudging respect of their Draconis allies. However, the true test of the humans' mettle came when the Zorgons launched a massive offensive on a key Draconis colony world. The Zorgon forces, armed with superior numbers and firepower, pushed the Draconis back to their last line of defense. The situation looked grim, with the Draconis on the verge of a crushing defeat. In a desperate attempt to turn the tide, General Tarax ordered Commander Stone and his team to lead a daring counterattack on the Zorgon command ship. It was a risky gambit, but the humans were the only ones with the technology and audacity to pull it off. Stone and his team, armed with prototype human weapons and stealth technology, managed to infiltrate the Zorgon ship undetected. They made their way to the bridge, where they confronted the Zorgon leader, Admiral Zakor. Zakor, a towering figure with razor-sharp claws and a cruel smile, looked down at the humans with contempt. "Pathetic creatures," he snarled. "You dare to challenge me on my own ship?" Commander Stone stepped forward, his weapon trained on the Admiral. "We're here to end this war, Zakor. Surrender now, and we can avoid further bloodshed." Zakor laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Surrender to a pack of hairless apes? I think not." With a roar, Zakor charged at Stone, his claws outstretched. Stone met him head-on, dodging the Admiral's blows and retaliating with a series of precise strikes. The two leaders engaged in a fierce hand-to-hand battle, trading blows across the bridge. In the end, it was Stone who emerged victorious. With a final decisive blow, he sent Zakor crashing to the ground, unconscious. The rest of the Zorgon bridge crew, seeing their leader defeated, quickly surrendered. The loss of their command ship threw the Zorgon forces on the colony world into disarray. Seizing the opportunity, the Draconis launched a devastating counterattack, driving the Zorgons back and ultimately securing a decisive victory. News of the humans' crucial role in turning the tide of the battle spread like wildfire throughout the galaxy. Races that had once dismissed the humans as weak and irrelevant now saw them in a new light. The humans, it seemed, were a force to be reckoned with. Vortis sat hunched over his desk, data pads and holographic displays scattered before him. The soft glow of the screens illuminated his scaled features as he pored over the classified documents he had managed to uncover. His mind raced with questions about the humans' involvement in the Zorgon-Draconis War, and he was determined to find answers. As he delved deeper into the archives, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. In the battles following the humans' initial victory, the Draconis forces had undergone a chilling transformation. Gone were the honorable warriors who adhered to the galactic laws of warfare. In their place stood soldiers who embraced brutality and ruthlessness. Reports from the front lines painted a grim picture. Draconis troops, once known for their restraint, now employed banned weapons that caused unimaginable suffering. Civilian populations, previously off limits, became targets of indiscriminate attacks. Zorgon prisoners, who should have been treated with dignity, were subjected to torture and degradation. Vortis felt a growing sense of unease as he uncovered evidence suggesting that the humans, particularly Commander Stone and his team, had actively encouraged and participated in these atrocities. The very soldiers who had been hailed as heroes for turning the tide of the war now stood accused of war crimes. As the conflict progressed, the Draconis began to rely heavily on the humans' tactics, adopting their aggressive strategies and disregarding the consequences. Victory after victory was achieved, but at a terrible cost. The Draconis Empire, once a beacon of honor and justice, became synonymous with cruelty and brutality. Vortis leaned back in his chair, his mind reeling from the revelations. He had always wondered why the Galactic Council had chosen to ban human involvement in future conflicts, but now he understood. The humans' influence had corrupted the Draconis, leading them down a dark and twisted path. A blinking light on one of the data pads caught Vortis's attention. It was a highly encrypted file buried deep within the archives. With trembling claws, he accessed the file and found himself staring at a recorded conversation between Commander Stone and General Terox. The holographic figures flickered to life, and Vortis watched as Stone leaned in close to Terox, his voice low and intense. "General, we have the Zorgons on the run. Now is the time to strike a decisive blow. We must annihilate them completely, wipe them from the face of the galaxy. It's the only way to ensure lasting peace." Terox shifted uncomfortably, his scales rippling with unease. "Commander, what you're suggesting goes against everything we stand for. It's genocide." Stone's eyes narrowed. "It's what needs to be done. The Zorgons will never stop fighting unless we eliminate them, every last one of them." Terox sighed heavily, his shoulders slumping. "I'll consider your proposal, Commander, but I have my reservations." The recording ended abruptly, leaving Vortis stunned. The implications were staggering. If Stone had convinced Terox to go through with the plan, the entire Zorgon race could have been wiped out. Vortis knew he couldn't stop now. He had to uncover the full truth behind the humans' actions during the war. With renewed determination, he began to compile a list of surviving members of Stone's team and General Terox himself. He would track them down one by one and piece together the events that had transpired. As he worked, a nagging thought lingered in the back of his mind. If the humans had been capable of such atrocities in the past, what would happen if they were allowed to intervene in the current conflict? The stakes were higher than ever, and Vortis feared that history might repeat itself. Vortis stepped out of his shuttle onto the dusty surface of a remote planet, his eyes scanning the desolate landscape. The coordinates he had obtained led him to this forsaken world where former Lieutenant Marcus Reed had chosen to hide from his past. Vortis approached the small, nondescript dwelling that stood as the only sign of civilization amidst the barren terrain. He knocked on the door, the metallic sound echoing in the stillness. After a long moment, the door creaked open, revealing a haggard human face. Reed's eyes widened in recognition of Vortis's Draconis features, and he quickly attempted to slam the door shut. Vortis wedged his foot in the doorway. "Wait, Lieutenant Reed. I'm not here to harm you. I need to talk to you about the Zorgon-Draconis War." Reed hesitated, his gaze darting around nervously. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Leave me alone, please." Vortis persisted, his voice calm but firm. "I've come a long way to find you. I know you were part of Commander Stone's team. I need to know the truth about what happened during the war." Reed's shoulders sagged, and he stepped aside, allowing Vortis to enter. The small dwelling was sparse, with only the bare essentials. Reed motioned for Vortis to sit at a rickety table. "Why do you want to know about the war?" Reed asked, his voice heavy with weariness. It's ancient history. Fortis leaned forward, his eyes locked on Reed's. Because I believe the truth has been buried for too long. I've uncovered evidence that suggests the humans' actions during the war were not entirely honorable. Reed let out a bitter laugh. Honorable? No, there was nothing honorable about what we did. He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself to confront the demons of his past. Commander Stone's team wasn't acting under the official orders of the Earth government. We were part of a rogue faction within the military, a group called Humanity First. They believed that humans should dominate the galaxy, no matter the cost. Fortis listened intently as Reed recounted the indoctrination process, how he and his fellow soldiers were fed a steady diet of propaganda and rhetoric about human superiority. Stone, it seemed, was one of the movement's most ardent supporters. As the war went on, we started carrying out missions that went beyond the scope of normal military operations, Reed confessed, his voice trembling. We used biological weapons against Zorgon colonies, wiping out entire populations. We destroyed civilian targets, all in the name of asserting human dominance. Fortis felt a chill run down his spine at the revelation. And General Terox, did he know about these atrocities? Reed shook his head. I don't think he knew the full extent of it, but he must have had suspicions. We were getting results, and that's all that mattered to him. What made you leave? Fortis asked, his voice softening. I couldn't live with myself anymore, Reed admitted, his eyes haunted. The things we did, they haunt me every day. I deserted the team and went into hiding, terrified that either Humanity First or the Galactic authorities would find me. Fortis reached out and placed a hand on Reed's shoulder. Thank you for telling me this. I know it couldn't have been easy. Armed with this new information, Fortis set out to confront General Terox. He tracked the retired general to a remote Draconis outpost, a place where Terox had exiled himself after the war. Fortis found Terox sitting in a dimly lit room, staring out at the stars. He cleared his throat, announcing his presence. Terox turned, his eyes widening in surprise. Fortis? What brings you to this forgotten corner of the galaxy? Fortis stepped forward, his expression grim. I know about the atrocities committed by the humans during the war, General. I spoke with Lieutenant Reed. Terox's face paled, and he sagged into his chair. I had my suspicions about Stone and his team, he admitted, his voice heavy with regret. But I chose to ignore them. The pressure to win the war was immense, and I convinced myself that the ends justified the means. Fortis presented the evidence he had gathered, laying out the full scope of the humans' actions. Terox listened, his expression growing more and more haunted. After the war, I discovered the true extent of what had been done, Terox confessed. The guilt was overwhelming. I secretly provided the Galactic Council with evidence of the war crimes, leading to the ban on human involvement in galactic conflicts. Fortis nodded, understanding dawning on him. The ban wasn't just about preventing human aggression, was it? It was about protecting the galaxy from the influence of extremist factions within human society. Terox met Fortis's gaze, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. Yes, we couldn't risk something like that happening again. Fortis stood, his mind racing with the implications of what he had learned. He knew he had to present his findings to the Galactic Council to ensure that the truth about the humans' role in the Zorgon-Draconis War was finally brought to light. As he left the outpost, Fortis couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The galaxy stood on the brink of another conflict, and the decisions made in the coming days would shape the future for generations to come. Fortis paced back and forth in his quarters, his mind racing with the weight of the evidence he had gathered. The true extent of the humans' actions during the Zorgon-Draconis War weighed heavily on his shoulders. He knew that presenting this information to the Galactic Council would be a turning point, not just for himself but for the entire galaxy. A sudden knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. Fortis opened it to find Jake Adams standing before him, still dressed in his military fatigues. "We need to talk," Adams said, his voice low and urgent. Fortis stepped aside, allowing Adams to enter. "What brings you here, soldier?" he asked, eyeing the human warily. Adams took a deep breath. "I'm not just a soldier. I'm part of a secret organization within the human military dedicated to exposing the truth about the Humanity First movement and the atrocities they committed during the war." Fortis's eyes widened. "You mean you've been investigating this as well?" Adams nodded. "We've been working tirelessly to gather evidence to bring the truth to light. And now, with what you've uncovered, we believe it's time for the galaxy to know. The two spent hours poring over the combined evidence, piecing together a damning picture of the Humanity First movement's actions, the use of banned weapons, the targeting of civilians, the torture of prisoners. It was all laid bare. As they stood before the Galactic Council, Vortis could feel the tension in the room. Representatives from countless worlds watched as he and Adams presented their findings.